All right, today we're gonna talk about what makes a good CFI. Okay, not all CFIs are created equal. We're gonna talk about what makes a really good one. The first point that I wanna talk about is passion. Now, that might sound like a no-brainer. Duh, they need to really love to fly. And yes, I'm talking about passion for flying, but they also have to be passionate teachers. They need to be passionate about people and about sharing their knowledge and their experience with their students. And so the number one thing is they've got to be passionate about flying. I'm passionate about people and teaching and sharing that knowledge. The number two thing that makes a great CFI is experience. Now, I'm not trying to beat up anybody that's on their way to becoming a commercial pilot and therefore they're getting their hours, they're building time by being a CFI. I'm not trying to beat them up. What I'm sharing is my experience is my CFI has about 1,500 hours worth of instruction, and much of that is actually being a CFI. And he's not building time to get into the commercial airlines. He's just a great CFI. And so that experience is something that I'm able to really lean into. And he can tell me about weather. He can tell me about experiences. He can tell me about wind shear, coming in for a landing. He can give me that experience and pass that on to me. And so I really love having a CFI that's got a wealth of knowledge because he's got so much experience. The number three thing that I want to talk about is being cool under pressure. Now, I've heard stories, again, my CFI is a great CFI, he's very cool under pressure. But I've heard some of the other guys that I talk with that are getting their PPL, and they talked about the fact that they were coming in, that things got a little bit bumpy, maybe they were being a little bit too aggressive on the yoke, and the CFI jumped in and grabbed the yoke and took over. Now, the guy that I'm talking about, he's been flying for a little while, he's got about 40 hours, and I don't think that he's a massive risk. This CFI that he was working with, though, was a new CFI, and he was very jumpy, very quick to grab the yoke. And while I understand that there's a time and a place for that, I really appreciate that my CFI is very cool under pressure. He's quick to mention things. He's quick to say, hey, do you see that obstacle? Do you see that tree? Do you see whatever it is? He's quick to give me guidance and correction, but it's not like he's taking over in a panic. And I think that's what it is for me. He's not panicked, he's not easily rattled. I love the fact that he's cool under pressure. The number four thing I'll talk about is my CFI is very direct, but not a jerk. And I think that there's a fine line there. A lot of times people that are in kind of a teaching experience can be direct with the intent to really beat somebody up or put them down. And being direct is important because if I'm doing something that's unsafe or if I'm building a bad habit, I need that CFI to really be direct and show me exactly what I need to be doing differently. But there's a way that you can do that that's good, and there's a way that you can do it that can really tear somebody down. So being direct without being a jerk is something that I think is an important aspect of being a great CFI. The number five thing is, again, maybe this is a no-brainer, but it's patience. I've made the same mistakes several times. As a matter of fact, we were up the other day and we were doing unusual attitudes, and one of the things that for the life of me, I couldn't, I was not quick enough on the throttle to make adjustments there. And even though we practiced it for a good 10 minutes doing many different unusual attitudes, I couldn't get the hang of managing the throttle. My CFI again was very patient. He also understood, and maybe this is an additional point, but he also understood when my brain couldn't take any more. And so he said, hey, look, we'll revisit that. It's something that you'll get the hang of eventually, but we were moving on. Again, he was direct and he was patient with me, but he wasn't putting me down. He wasn't beating me up for something that I was clearly having a hard time with. 6 is best practices. And maybe this comes with experience. Maybe it comes with just being a great teacher, but best practices are something that I'm craving as a student pilot. I really want to know what is the best way to come, base to final. What's the best way to do a long final or a straight in final? What's the best way to manage flaps on a windy day? Whatever it is, I want those best practices. I really want that CFI to give those best practices to me very straight, very direct, very clean, so that I can incorporate them into my flying. The last point that I'll make here is that there are multiple ways to skin a cat, or maybe another way to say that there's multiple ways to land a plane. And one of the things that's helpful for me and what makes my CFI fantastic is there are a lot of different ways to land a plane or a lot of different ways to do steep turns. And if I'm struggling with a particular way that he's teaching me, I love the fact that he can say, you know what, that one's not working. Let's try this other method. And that's important for me because not all of us are created equal, right? Every pilot's a little bit different. And I want to know that he's got some different tools in his tool belt to be able to say, hey, this is something else that you can try to improve those steep turns, or this is a better way to account for wind when we're doing turns around a point or whatever it is. The biggest part for me was landings. There are a lot of different ways to come into a landing configuration or to do a very specific traffic pattern. And it was nice that when I was struggling with something, my CFI could show me a different way to do that. Now, another way to do that is you go and talk to a different CFI. One thing I'd be careful about though is as you're getting close to that check ride, you start to get too many different inputs on different ways to do things, and it totally throws you off your game. I would be very careful at the end of your training when you're coming in for your check ride. Be careful about changing that up too much. Now, the last thing I'll say here, and it's not really what makes a great CFI or not, it's just remembering that people are people. And your CFI is a person, he's gonna make mistakes. I'm a student pilot, I'm gonna make mistakes. Let's just have fun. Let's just enjoy aviation. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, there's gonna be days where you're just overloaded or you're not really in the groove very well. Just remember, hey, we're all people. We all make mistakes, including that CFI, and I think there's room for a little bit of leeway there. Thank you so much for joining us here at Pilot Pursuit. We hope you appreciate the videos. Leave comments for us down below, and don't forget to subscribe and like what you've got there, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.